The film begins by showing a trial that takes place on an alien world. In this judicial process, the defendant is a small creature called by the name of 626. It turns out that 626 is a creature the result of illegal experiments that are considered very dangerous. Shortly thereafter, another defendant named Jumba was presented at the hearing. Apparently, Jumba is the genius scientist who created 626. So, according to Jumba's description, 626 is an unusually strong and intelligent creature. In fact, 626 can hardly be destroyed because it has a super tough body. Kalian 626 destroys everything it touches. The trial judge, who is familiarly called the Grand Council, finally ordered 626 to show positive ability so that it could be considered in making a decision. But in the end, 626 even uttered words that made the aliens even more opposed to him. From this, both defendants were eventually convicted. The Grand Council imprisons Jumba and destroys his laboratory, while 626 go into exile. Shortly after, 626 managed to hijack a police plane and use it to escape. The Grand Council then found plane 626 moving towards planet Earth. The Grand Council eventually planned to annihilate the Earth so that later 626 could not survive when they arrived there. However, an expert on Earth life named Pleckley forbade the extermination. The reason is, so far the United Galactic Federation has made the Earth a protected research site. And last but not least, the Federation uses the Earth to preserve mosquitoes. Upon learning of this, the Grand Council, as the leader of the Federation, offers a deal to Jumba. If he succeeds in arresting 626, then Jumba will be released from prison. After that, we are introduced to a Hawaiian girl named Lilo. Like any child, Lilo loves to play. Then one day, Lilo and her friends performed in a hula dance performance. At this moment, Lilo is disappointed that her sister named Nanny is not present to watch it. While the stage was still going on, Lilo fell due to being nudged by Myrtle. In return, Lilo pushed Myrtle until she fell off the stage. As a result of these problems, Lilo was eventually expelled from hula school. After that, Nanny was only present at the stage location when his sister had returned home. Nanny finally regretted this incident because he actually arrived late because his car had broken down. Time continued until Lilo finally locked the door of the house as a form of disappointment in Nanny. Nanny then panicked about this incident because a social worker named Kekoa had just come to do an examination. Nanny finally managed to overcome this situation by bringing Kekoa in through the back door of the house. After reflecting on the condition of the house and Lilo, Kekoa discussed with Nanny. It turns out that Nanny is now Lilo's guardian since their parents died not long ago. Kekoa then gives Nanny 3 tasks so that she can maintain her position as Lilo's guardian. 2 of them are keeping the house clean and paying every bill. When Kekoa was gone, Nanny was angry at Lilo, because as a result of Lilo's actions, Nanny did not have time to clean the house first before Kekoa came. After that, Nanny chatted briefly with 2 neighbors named Tutu and David. It turned out that they were grandmothers and grandchildren. As with David, Tutu is ready to help Nanny if he has difficulty. On the other hand, the 626 who were boarding the plane were very disturbed by the direction from the AI. Frustrated by the situation, 626 presses the button carelessly until the plane breaks down and crashes to Earth. A few minutes later, 626 was on the ground after the plane crashed. While still studying the surroundings, 626 was repeatedly electrocuted. It turned out that the source of this electric shock was the necklace of prisoner 626, which was used as a tracking device by Pleckley. With the necklace, Pleckley believes he can quickly find 626 and capture him. But soon, 626 deliberately damages her necklace so that she is free from electric shock. As a result of this incident, Pleckley and Jumba could no longer track the location of 626. Then, while exploring the surrounding area, 626 made trouble by ruining the wedding reception that was being held. After leaving the site, 626 were hit by a bus. The next day, the team of Jumba and Pleckley, which we call Capture, use closed clothes to hide their true forms as aliens. With advanced tools, Capture finally disguises himself as a human so that he can search for 626 freely. After hearing the news of the bus crash, Capture goes to a wild animal shelter that houses 626. Meanwhile, Tutu takes Lilo to the same animal shelter center so that Lilo can get the animal she wants to adopt. So in this situation, 626 managed to escape by damaging his cage. While wandering around, 626 came across an image of an adopted animal that inspired him. 626 has always deliberately hidden its limbs that represent the characteristic features of aliens, so from now on 626 looks like a dog. Aft. That Lilo, who was looking for an adopted animal, accidentally found 626. Because 626 seemed cute and wanted to be close to her, Lilo eventually adopted 626. Now, Lilo gives Stitch a name for her new pet. After a few hours, Nanny was surprised to see Lilo playing with Stitch. Tutu then admits he wants Lilo to have a pet so she doesn't feel lonely. Although strongly opposed, Nanny eventually relents in order to please Lilo. In a different location, a CIA agent named Cobra is investigating the wreckage of the plane that Stitch was traveling on. To the person accompanying him, Cobra admits that his task is to protect the Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Armed with clues to his findings, Cobra now knows Stitch is living with Lilo. After that, Lilo was bullied by children while playing with Stitch. In this situation, Stitch takes over the child's car and uses it to escape with Lilo. Shortly thereafter, Stitch stopped for a moment near the beach. Stitch discovers that he is trapped on the island of Hawaii. Stitch was afraid to swim to the high seas because water was his weakness. Sometime later, Nanny invites Lilo and Stitch to go to the resort where he works. Then, when Nanny is busy working, Lilo and Stitch act up again without realizing the consequences. Their mischief continued until the evening to make the resort table was burned. Nanny then realized the incident was triggered by Stitch's mischief and Lilo's failure to take care of her pet. Nanny eventually had to lose his job due to the incident earlier. When she returned home, Nanny contacted the authorities to report Stitch's actions. Unexpectedly, CIA agent Cobra intercepts Nanny's communications, alluding to Stitch's traits and the reaction of social services. Now Cobra prepares to disguise himself as a social worker in order to smooth out the contents to catch Stitch. After making a report, Nanny was increasingly upset to see Stitch's mischief getting worse. Nanny finally considers Stitch as a serious nuisance since Stitch attacked Nanny's face so that he could not be arrested. Entering bedtime, Lilo managed to calm Stitch down so that he would stop acting up. Lilo then showed a photo of Nanny's past, who turned out to be a very smart and talented child in surfing. Lilo also showed a photo of her parents while they were still alive. Lilo now considers Stitch as a member of her new family. The next day, Kekoa social workers found Nanny at his home. During this visit, Kekoa was accompanied by Cobra, who was posing as the director of social services. Then, while checking on Lilo and Stitch, Cobra secretly managed to pull out a strand of Stitch's fur for the sake of his mission. As time went on, Nanny kept trying to find a new job. But Nanny's efforts never came to fruition because the company proposed already knew of Lilo and Stitch's mischief. Shortly after, Lilo showed the work of a surfing instructor. David finally supported Nanny to follow the Lawangan, considering Nanny is very adept at surfing. Time continued until finally Nanny managed to become a surf instructor. After that, Lilo and Stitch went surfing together with Nanny. At the same time, Cobra secretly kept an eye on Stitch. Then, unbeknownst to Nanny and Lilo, Stitch faces Capture's attack in action using a jet ski. Stitch finally managed to stop Capture. But as a result of the fight, Stitch fell off the surfboard, as well as Nanny and Lilo. On the other hand, Cobra just learned that Stitch is being hunted by Capture. After that, the doctor delivered the results of the examination of Lilo's condition. It turns out that if Lilo had drowned longer, then the impact could have been fatal. After Lilo was treated, Kekoa came to offer a deal for Nanny. So the government will cover the cost of health insurance on the condition that Nanny will give up her position as Lilo's guardian. Due to financial difficulties, Nanny was finally forced to agree to this deal so that inevitably he would part with Lilo. On the other hand, Jumbo and Capture get a harsh reprimand from the Grand Council. In addition to not arresting Stitch, they were also scolded for his existence has been detected by the CIA. As a result of this problem, the Grand Council cancelled its deal with Jumbo. By order of the Grand Council, Capture prepares to return Jumbo to the looters. But Jumbo rebelled until he was finally locked up. Capture. Now Jumbo will catch Stitch in his own way. In the evening, Nanny tells Lilo that their lives are about to change. Given Lilo's young age, she did not realize the change her brother meant was their separation. Afterwards, Nanny and Lilo reminisce about their good mother and father's silence. Finished reminiscing, Nanny sang to comfort her sister. Apparently, Nanny is secretly creating a sweet moment so that he can separate from Lilo calmly. At the same time, Stitch secretly leaves the house because he no longer wants to ruin Lilo and Nanny's life. The next day, Kekoa and Cabra come to accompany Nanny to say goodbye to Lilo, but the separation was cancelled after Nanny found her sister disappeared from home. Meanwhile, Lilo turns to meet Stitch, who decides to return to the Wild Animal Shelter Center. Then while chatting, Lilo assures that Stitch is actually not naughty, it's just that Stitch sometimes does annoying deeds. Lilo is also reminded that Stitch is now a member of her family. Not long after, Jumba comes to the location through the portal. Jumba insists that he will arrest Stitch, though Lilo refuses. By taking advantage of Jumba's negligence, Stitch managed to seize the portal creator's weapon. Stitch then uses this weapon to get Jumba stuck in a very troublesome situation. While Jumba cannot move freely, Lilo and Stitch return home to find Nanny. Unfortunately, Nanny is not at the location as he is away looking for Lilo. After a few minutes, Jumba reappeared in his original form. Lilo and Stitch then run away from home in hopes of leading Jumba to another place. However, Jumba destroys Lilo's house to lure her back with Stitch. When cornered by Lilo and Stitch's counterattack, Jumba makes a statement to turn things around. Here, Jumba reminds Stitch is a destructive creature that has messed up Lilo and Nanny's life. Jumba also revealed Stitch's intentions, who had only used Lilo for shelter. Because Jumba's words were true, Stitch finally felt guilty and was willing to give himself up. Afterwards, Jumba uses the portal to bring Stitch to his plane. Once on the plane, Jumba puts Stitch in a special cell. With his advanced tools, Jumba prepares to erase the feeling of empathy that Stitch has only had since he was close to Lilo. It turns out that Jumba will turn Stitch into an evil monster who has the name 627. If this transformation succeeds, Jumba will utilize Stitch to fight the Grand Council. Meanwhile, Nanny is shocked to see the damage to her house when she arrives with Tutu and David. There they also found the capture in its original form that had been crushed by building materials while trying to secure Jumba. Not long after, the Cobra came and captured Capture. Then when Cabra was about to take Capture to the CIA headquarters, Nanny managed to convince Cabra to save Lilo first. Turning to Lilo, he turns out to be sneaking into Jumba's plane to help Stitch. Upon learning of this, Stitch damages the plane's components so that Jumba is unaware of Lilo's existence. While Jumba's attention is distracted by Stitch's actions, Lilo presses every button until she finally manages to free Stitch. But on the bad side, the plane is now flying uncontrollably. In the midst of this chaos, Lilo and Stitch manage to throw Jumba off the plane. Not long after, Stitch urges Lilo to plunge together into the sea because soon the plane will soon fall. Stitch eventually has to put the matter aside for the sake of saving Lilo's precious family photos. After that, Nanny's group managed to find the location of the Jumba plane crash thanks to Capture's tracking device. When Nanny and David rushed to the sea, Stitch managed to help Lilo, who drowned due to being hit by aircraft material. Seeing that Stitch can no longer swim, Lilo finally tries to bring him to the surface so that they can survive together. However, upon learning that Lilo is in trouble and will soon run out of breath, Stitch finally deliberately makes himself drown so that Lilo can quickly rise to the surface. Shortly after, Nanny and David manage to find Lilo. So when David takes Lilo to the beach, Nanny struggles to save Stitch, who is still drowning. Apparently, Nanny did this stunt because Lilo emphasized that Stitch was a member of their family. In the end, Nanny manages to take Stitch to the beach. But unfortunately, Stitch was threatened with death because he stopped breathing. Although David was already using medical devices, Stitch's condition showed no change. As a last resort, Nanny uses a car engine to awaken Stitch's lung function. Stitch was finally able to regain consciousness when everyone thought he was dead. Stitch then vomits out a photo of Lilo's family that he managed to save before the plane crashed into the sea. Shortly thereafter, the Grand Council and Federation troops arrive to arrest Stitch. At the same time, other Federation officers managed to secure Jumba. In the midst of Stitch's arrest, the Grand Council confirms that Stitch could be a danger to humanity. However, thanks to the testimony of Lilo and the others, the Grand Council only realized that there was still a good side to Stitch. The negative view of the Grand Council can finally change after seeing Lilo and Stitch's relationship as a family. Afterwards, Cabra promises to help the Federation keep Stitch's whereabouts a secret from the public. On the other hand, Capture is willing to represent the Federation to supervise Stitch on Earth. The Grand Council then declared Stitch's sentence of exile still valid. Now, having believed in Lilo's group, the Grand Council finally chose Earth as Stitch's exile location. Thus, Stitch can live onward on Earth along with Lilo. When the situation has returned to normal, Nanny follows Kekoa's proposal to hand over the position of Lilo's guardian to Tutu and David. In addition to the good of Lilo, Nanny also does this so that her sister can stay in the same house. Often over time, Nanny's house, which was damaged by Jumba's attack, began to be repaired. After that, Lilo delivers Nanny's departure to San Diego. Apparently, Nanny will study at the University of California to explore marine biology, which has been her favorite field. Sometime later, Nanny uses Jumba's portal gun so that he can go to Lilo's house instantly. Nanny finally gets together with Lilo and Stitch in a warm atmosphere, and the movie is finally finished.